TipTut.
Hello everybody and welcome back to TipTut and welcome to this Adobe Animate tutorial. Today we're taking a look at this sort of painting blob animated logo effect. So we'll just give it a little preview here. As you can see, these little blobs come into play onto the screen and splash to form my logo. Now this is all done by hand, frame by frame, so you can do it with any logo that you want really. It's just going to be a process of how I break down these techniques, what we're going to do with each of these blobs and how the, I think, best way to build each of them is. So without any further ado, I'm just going to jump right in. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is create yourself a new canvas. We're going to work on ActionScript 3.0 because it creates a nice simple Swift file for us, and we're going to use Full HD 1920 by 1080. Doesn't matter too much as long as the aspect ratio is correct, because Flash or Animate rather creates in vector format, which means it can be rescaled infinitely. So what you're going to need to do first of all is import your logo. Now that is as simple as taking your logo file and dragging that onto your stage like so. You can then resize this to get it into the position that you want by clicking the transform tool in your panel. Now I've moved mine around a bit. I like my timeline at the top, yours might be at the bottom. If you can't see any windows that I talk about during this tutorial, just click window here and they'll be somewhere in this list. So let's just resize this for now, holding shift to keep the aspect ratio constrained. And we'll just pop it in the middle like so. Now I'm going to want to reduce the opacity of this so that it doesn't distract me. So I'm going to turn that to a symbol by hitting F8 and I'm going to call this logo. What that does is it changes the properties panel up here, and underneath color effect, I can then go to alpha and twirl that down when I need to later. For now though, I'm going to create a new layer with this new layer button in the top left, and I'm going to call it palette. And I'm going to extract the colors from my logo. So taking my brush tool and then my eyedropper tool with I, I'm going to select the colors that I need, go back to my brush tool with B, and just paint myself a little palette for each of the colors that I need. Now I find this is a nice way to work inside Animate rather than using swatches and things like that. Don't know why, I just prefer it. So I'm then going to come over here and go to the graphic that I just imported, and I'm going to drop its alpha down because I don't need the colors from it anymore. I just need the shapes. So let's lock that into place. Underneath that, excuse me, I'm going to create a new layer, drag it below and call it background. Now, I will say at this moment in time that I am using a graphics tablet. So you can see I have things like pressure sensitivity and stuff like that. Really, really useful, although not mandatory if you're willing to be patient. If you do have one, they're great. You can pick them up for about 30 quid nowadays. They're super, super cheap. I recommend Huion. That's when I'm using Huion Canvas. They're great. They've always made great quality products, and recently they've become quite a solid competitor to Wacom. So I'm going to grab my rectangle tool and I'm just going to draw myself a quick rectangle with the red background as my fill color. I'm going to double click on that stroke and remove it. And then selecting that shape with a single click, I'm going to make it the same size as my canvas, and I'm going to pop it in the top left corner like so. That just gives us a nice background that when we lock away, makes it nice and easy for us to see our yellow when we start painting it. Now, obviously I'm doing this on my logo. You can do it on whatever logo you want. It doesn't really matter. Let's get to the fun bit then. Let's pop in a new layer above and we'll call this blob 1. And we'll grab our yellow color. Now, it's important that you recognize how your blobs are going to move across the page. So what it might be useful to do is if you create a new layer underneath your blob layer and call this guide, you can draw the path that you want your blob to take. Okay. Now, this can be whatever you want, but I recommend you take into account the finishing point of your logo. So for example, the crossbar of the T is going to have to be horizontal and this is going to have to be vertical. It doesn't necessarily have to follow how you would normally draw a letter. For example, you'd normally draw a T right to left and then top to bottom, but I think this is going to look better coming in left to right and then coming in maybe bottom to top, so they splash together. So finishing point is going to be through like this. Okay, so I'm going to have it come down like this in a nice big curve, maybe overcompensate slightly, boff, and come through like that. Okay, let's just line that up so it's in the middle of the T. And what I'm going to do then is lock this layer and turn on this little guide, which basically shows us the path that that's going to take. Now let's talk for a little bit about our brush settings. What I've got is the smoothness turned down of my brush. You can see that if I go to my brush tool, I've got smoothing all the way off. And what that does is means that if I'm really sloppy, it creates these nice sort of lumpy edges. Yeah, so you can see all these sort of weird little lumps and stuff. If we turn the smoothing up to high, it gets rid of all of those. Now for this, I think it looks much nicer if it's lumpy. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to turn it all the way down to low. And I'm going to make my maximum size for my brush about 30, because I think that's going to be the thickness. Yeah, that's going to be the thickness that I want. Maybe not 30, I mean, maybe 45. You want your maximum thickness to be just under the size of your bar that you're painting on your logo. So let's go up to our top menu here. And on our layers, I'm just going to select somewhere in the distant future, and I'm just going to hit F5. And what F5 does is it adds in a bunch of blank frames. Now, if you've never looked in Animate before, I recommend first watching my Intro to Animate series, because I'm going to skip over some things here that I assume you know. Simple things like keyframes and blank keyframes. If you don't know what that is, make sure that you go and check that out. So, first frame then, what I'm going to do is every 2 frames, and this is on a 24 frame per second canvas, I'm going to hit F7. And that's just going to create us a nice set of keyframes for us to animate on 2s. Now what that means is every 2 frames you draw a new picture. That's what animating on 2s means. What I'm going to do also is create a new layer now, and I'm just going to call this blob 2. And just for safety, I'm going to copy across all of these with Alt and drag, just so that I've got some blank keyframes, so I don't have to do that again in the future. Okay. Now I've just realized that I've left my live stream bar on, so I'm just going to turn that off. There you go, because it's not telling us what we're creating. So let's grab our brush tool like so and take a look at this then. So it's simply a case of just drawing it on like so. You might want to zoom in a little bit, and if you notice in the previous version, there was all this offshoot. Okay, there was the main blob, then there's all these extra bits coming in as well. You'll notice that these are actually on separate layers, because when animating, it's best to animate as simply as possible. Okay. And what we're going to do for this one is just go straight forward. We're just going to animate our way through. So we draw our first frame like so. And using the comma and full stop keys, or left and right arrows, we're going to start scrolling through our frames. Now, it's going to be difficult to follow this path unless we turn onion skin on. And that's that first little symbol up here. And what onion skin does is it just means that when you move to a keyframe that doesn't have anything on it, you can see what was in there previously. And you can see what's in there next, if there is something in there next. So you're going to have to think about speed as you draw this in. How fast do you want your blob to be going? As it reaches this, it might bunch up a bit, for example. So it might be moving quite fast at this point. So it's going to make big jumps around each frame. Then it might start to just bunch up a little bit, maybe become a bit shorter as it turns this corner, and then speed up again on its way out. Yeah. So it's starting to bunch up like here. We're just drawing our little blob. You don't have to be too accurate, because like I said, this is like a rough kind of style anyway. So we can just bring out this blob here, start to stretch him out a bit again as he picks up speed. Really starting to pick up speed now. And then bam, this is the impact frame. So let's take a look at that, what we've done. It's going to go. Nice. Might even be a bit slow, but that's fine for now. So with the impact frame then, what you want to do is really stretch out the frame before to like create that sense of impact. So if we leave that where it is and we just grab our anchor point and we can stretch this guy out almost to the point where he's touching it, that's really going to create a sense of impact as it hits. Now it's just a case of drawing in where you think this liquid's going to sploosh. Now I think it's going to go boom, 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 and there's going to be some offsets here. It's going to bunch up, and it's going to start to like that, probably. Something like that. Now I'm going a little bit faster than I usually would, because otherwise we'll be here all day. And then in the next frame, you're going to have to think about how this is going to impact that. So this is probably going to bunch up here like so, whoosh, onto there. And you want to start thinking about molding it to your shape. something like that. Now go to the paint bucket tool and fill it in. So let's take a look. Okay, nice. Now we want this to just go and pretty much cover our logo. Still okay to be a little bit sloppy. I'm going to hit K to bring up the paint bucket and B again to bring up the brush. Now these last frames are quite important. So you might want to zoom in a little bit and really start to think about how you're going to solidify this blob. So at the moment it's been quite liquidy, but you want it to settle into position a little bit, yeah, as you settle on this crossbar of the T. So what you might want to do is just draw a couple of frames as carefully as you can, nice and thin, just following roughly where you want your final drawing to be. Boom, like that. Okay, let's fill that in. Go back to our brush tool, and then you want a couple of frames where you try your hardest to just draw exactly the same thing, because you'll never get it ditto. What that means is it'll have a little bit of settling in period because it's hit this crossbar of this T quite hard. Okay, so there's going to be a little bit of overshoot as it hits that. It's maybe 3 settling frames. And on the last one, get it exactly how you want. Be super careful, because this is what it's going to end up and finish on. Like so, and across like so. Okay, maybe a little bit extra on the bottom. Like that. Okay, pretty happy with that. Let's take a look at it all. Pressing enter to preview that. Bit not super happy with that impact. I think the impact needs to be just a touch stronger. So what I'm going to do is push that all the way over so that it's touching. Nice. And then I'm going to redraw this frame here because that's rubbish. So we can see our previous frame and we can see our next frame, and we really want this to bunch up. So boom, boom, boom. That's going to bunch and stretch, and this is going to bunch and stretch. And that's going to bunch and stretch there. I think that's going to look a little bit nicer. I think it also takes maybe too long to settle. Maybe we don't need this frame. Maybe we can remove it entirely. Yeah, that looks much better. Much more impactful, you can see. Bam. And we can iron out some of this a little bit when we draw our smaller blobs in a second. So let's insert another new layer. Let's take these blank keyframes we made earlier and duplicate them up at the top again with Alt and drag. And let's do the same thing that we just did with this, but with our T on the bottom as well. So we're going to need a new guide layer. So we'll call this one blob 2. We'll call a new layer guide 2. And I think we'll have this one come in like that maybe, but maybe more of a boom. That'll look nice. Lock that one, turn it into a guide. Let's get to work on blob 2 then. Same thing as before. Just coming in and just start drawing your blob. Now this one's got a longer rate to go, so we might just have him really start to stretch out and whip around as he picks up a stupid amount of speed around this corner. Just really start to like that. Of course, he's going to bunch up a little bit as he gets around to here. But not too much because we don't want to lose that impact. Like that. Now you might be asking why we're animating this with only 12 pictures a second when the frame rate is 24. And I'll get to that in a minute when we start to add these extra blobs. Basically, should we have that on be an impact? Let's have that on be an impact. Boom, let's stretch him out, see what that looks like. Yeah, that's good. Let's have this one be the part where it starts to impact. So basically, you want a bit of freedom. Boom, 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 boom. When you're doing this sort of thing. And animating on twos means that when you need something to move a bit faster, you can start, or something to move in a bit more detail, you've got that freedom to add in more frames without worrying about your actual frame rate. Yeah, because you can just add another blank keyframe here, for example, like so, and draw the in-between of this. If you wanted to stretch out this impact a bit more, you could do something like this. And then you could see it come in. Yeah, and you get a bit more of oomph at that moment in time. Now, I don't want that, but that's the premise, essentially. So let's bring this up here. It's going to start to splatter into place. Like so. Starting to think about its final shape. Like so. Fill that in. It won't let me because that means I haven't closed it somewhere down here at the tail. Like so. So let's make sure that's absolutely closed. And boom, this is great because when it starts to settle, it's already then being covered up by this first blob. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take all my blob 2 layers and I'm going to pop them below blob 1 because that'll be important later. Let's just settle in with this then. It's also important to think about what kind of liquid you want this to be. Is it more jelly-like? Is it more water-like? That's going to impact how you draw these frames. Okay, and I think it's now time to just draw the settling in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab everything from blob 1. And we'll just rename this safe for now. Grab everything from blob 1 and just hide that. And then what we can do is just come in and start thinking about our settling frames. I think we'll just need, did I just draw that on the wrong layer? Yes, I did. I just drew that on safe. So I'm going to cut that with Control X and paste it with not Control F. Sorry, that is Illustrator. Paste in place is Control Shift V. 2 more settling frames, I think. Again, trying to be as accurate as possible now. So for the last one, I think I'm going to zoom right in. And I can already tell that I'm not going to like that bit, so I'm going to grab my eraser with E. And I'm just going to flatten him out a bit. Much better. And we're going to come in and just be really delicate on this last one. Okay. So it's important to do all of your main stuff first because there's no point adding the little blobs coming off of it if you're not happy with all of your paths for your main chunks of animation. So that's why I'm doing all of these main bits first. Now that looks a little bit chunky. So I'm going to just trim that off. Perfect. I think I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do is take blob 1 and I'm going to just release all of these keyframes by selecting them here and clear keyframe and selecting all of these and clear keyframe. And what that does is it just leaves that image on for the rest of the animation. Just going to bring out and even these up so that I don't start freaking out. And we can take a look at our main paths. Ooh, cool. Looks pretty good to me. Bam. Let's quickly do that little crossbar color. So I'm just going to grab this darker yellow here with my B brush tool. And between blob 2 and blob 1, I'm going to hit new layer. And I'm going to drag in with Alt these blank keyframes that we've made. Now at the point of impact, bam, maybe on the next keyframe after the point of impact, I'm going to start having these things dribble down. So what I like to do is I'll remember frame 21 and I go, this is probably going to take, let's have it make all these frames. So I'll go to the last frame and I'll draw in where I want this to end up. So maybe somewhere like this. Okay, fill that in, see what it looks like. Pretty happy with that. Maybe we can grab it and we can squish it a bit. I think that looks pretty good. So we'll just tidy up the edges. Like so. See, now I know where I'm going to end up. I can animate this backwards. Sometimes a useful thing to do. So we know that it's going to settle. Let's turn our brush size down for this bit, actually. Down to about 20. And we're going to do a nice settling animation here. So animating this backwards because we need to end up in a specific place that's a bit harder to discern than our crossbars. And then once you've got a few frames, you can start to see where that animation is going to be heading. And you can probably animate forward. Now, I said frame 21. So what I can do is go to frame 21 and I can drag out this handle and I can start to see, if I lock all these other layers, they're not in the way, I can start to see where that shape's going to be. So I know that on frame 1, I can just have a really light bit of coming down. That's a technical term. And then we can start to blend these things together, start to see where these blobs are going to merge. Maybe I'll come back through in a minute and start to fill this in and just focus on the line work. Completely up to you how you do your workflow. It really doesn't matter. So I think that's probably enough actually. So I'm just going to remove those frames. Maybe we'll draw one last settling frame on the end to help concrete this finishing point. Okay. Cool, so we're going to go to our paint bucket tool. I'm just going to go back around and fill all these in. Let's turn off onion skin for now, or at least reset it to its previous place. That's good. Boom. Boom. Nice. Let's take a look at the whole thing. Boom. Cool, looks good. We can now hide our guide layer, and we can also hide our original guides if we wanted to. Might leave them on for now though, so we can still see the path we're going to make. And it's now time to do the blob extras. So I'm going to insert 2 new layers. I'm going to pop one above blob 2, and I'm going to pop the other above blob 1. We're going to name this, if I can click it, blob 1 extra. And we'll name this one blob 2 extra. Okay. Again, use our safe keyframes to copy these off, and we'll probably need all of these, and we'll probably need a few more. So this is the fun bit. This is the bit I like the most. Let's go blob 1 extra first. Let's grab our bright yellow, and for this one, we'll make the maximum size maybe a 10. Yeah, that seems to work. Actually, maybe we'll make it a 15. Yeah, perfect. Let's zoom all the way in. And now this is a good bit. You basically just get to scribble over the bit that you've just done. So setting up those little extra keyframes. And you just want to think about mainly the path of like motion that this thing's taking. Think about the force, the way that these blobs are going to be blowing. Okay. So these are going to obviously be following your path. Think about how they're going to be separating from your object. Doesn't mean just because those bits are there that they can't trail off behind. Okay. Maybe every now and then zoom out. Just work a little bit larger to get an overall view of what you're thinking. Try and keep things a little bit consistent as you go through here. You don't want just random blobs appearing and disappearing. For example, making sure those trails actually trail off and they're not just following this thing along its path. If it starts to bunch up, make your blobs start to bunch up. Simple, really. Maybe have a bit of an extra huge one come off there, and then you can have this extra huge one go like this, okay? So it's really just eyeballing it at this point. There's not much to say. This is the fun bit. And bam, this is the impact, okay? So this is what we want. We want to turn on our guide layer again, like so. Bam, here's the impact. Bam, there it is. So these things are going to carry on lobbing forward for a bit, but these are now going to go boosh like this, all the way out. Bam, bam, bam. Go nuts. I would say the more the merrier, but there needs to be some restraint. So that's going to go boom. This is going to start to curve around like that. And then you just need to start drawing off the little bit of spatters. Okay, let's take a look. Boff. Yeah, that's where the impact comes in. That's when you really start to feel it, is with these little extras. Nice. Cool. Let's do the blobs on this layer, and then we are finished. Let's do it. Start drawing some blobs. Like I said, this bit kind of hard to explain what you're doing. You kind of do just have to feel it a little bit, but hopefully it's pretty much apparent. I'm just drawing in the direction of movement. Some really rough, really cool extra elements. The main rule is just make sure that these little extra elements follow your path of motion. If they're doing that, then they're probably going to look good. And if they don't, the good thing is you've drawn them on a separate layer, so you can come through and delete them without affecting your original blob. So this impact's going to be fun. I'm going to make this one crazy. Boom, there it is. So these are going to go a bit more nuts. This is going to go bam, 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 bam. Look at all that impact. Look at it. These are going to start to blush out like this. Maybe some secondary blobs start to just peel off from the impact. And there you go. I think that'll do it. Let's take a look. Yeah. Nice. So the last bit that you saw in the original then was just this little background that I made. Just taking the stripes on the edge of my drawing in dark red. And this one I didn't even animate. I think it looked better just still. The way I did it to get the aspect ratio right and stuff, although this won't apply to you, so it doesn't really matter, was I just stretched this up like so until I got a shape that I'm happy with. Maybe something like this. I locked it again, and then I just went nuts. I just went blah, 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 like this. Turn the brush up really big and just kind of went from nice thick broad strokes down to thinner ones. So almost covering the entire thing, leaving a few gaps. Down to really thin lines, like so. Hide this off, see what that looks like. Okay, so let's hide our guide layer. Take a look. Boff. Nice. Looks pretty good. Add in some extra frames there. Boff. Nice. Boff. What I'm going to do is I feel like that impact of the second one, boom, needs to be a bit later. Boom. Just by one frame. So I'm going to grab all of my blob layers, blob and blob 2 extra, and I'm just going to shift them forward a little bit by 2 frames. Bam. Now they hit at the same time. Bam. Look at that. It's nice. Bam. We love it. Let's delete these layers that we don't want. I want you. You can go. I don't want you. You can go. I don't want you. You can go. And then save. We'll call this blob 2. And Control Enter to export and test that movie. Bam. Looks really nice. Let's shrink it down so that we don't get any of that ugly space on the outside of the frame. And there you go. Pretty happy with that. Push. Nice. We like it. That's it. That's all there is to it. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I enjoyed making it. I love doing Animate ones. So if there's anything you want to see specifically in Adobe Animate, please let me know and I'll happily do some more tutorials. In the meantime, though, thanks very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I'll see you all next time on TipTut.
Remember to subscribe for more tips, tricks, and tutorials. Thanks for watching.